Welcome to Super Movie Brothers. Let's start the show.
The key to faking out the parents is the clammy hands. It's a good non-specific symptom. I'm a big believer in it. A lot of people will tell you that a good phony fever is a deadlock, but you get a nervous mother, you could wind up in a doctor's office. That's worse than school. You fake a stomach cramp, and when you're bent over, moaning and wailing, you lick your palms. It's a little childish and stupid, but then so is high school. Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Ferris Bueller, you're my hero.
Right! Look, I can give you every assurance, Mr. Rooney, that Ferris is home and he is very ill. In fact, I debated whether or not I should even leave him.
Right! Pardon my French, but you're an asshole.
Bueller. Bueller. Bueller.
Well, he's very popular, Ed. The sportos, motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, dickheads, they all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Welcome to Super Movie Brothers. I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Dave.
I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Jay.
And I'm Cult Movie Mark. Cult Movie Mark is here, which means it is time for our monthly movie cocktail episode. You're going to notice the lack of a voice that is not here on your microphones in the ear holes for you. It's Rob. Unfortunately, Rob will no longer be on the podcast. Interestingly enough, a pack of dingoes that had some vendetta against Rob had swam across the Pacific Ocean, traversed the entire continent of North America, went straight to New Jersey, and ate him. He's dead. It was a closed casket funeral.
What are the odds?
What are the odds?
We miss you, Rob.
We do miss you, Rob. And it's so hard to say goodbye to my homie.
Never had one lesson.
Beautiful send-off.
So, Rob is very much alive, just life got in the way. You know how it is when you got family and, kids, and
That's
kids
life,
have
mate.
activities and stuff.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
So, Rob will no longer be joining us for movie cocktails. So, our quattro has now become the Three Amigos. And then we will be...
I thought we were the Three Musketeers.
I like the Amigos
right.
better, because that way... We're infamous, which means more than famous.
We are the Mexican knockoff of Epic Film Guys, so it's just...
I'll take that.
It just rolls with that.
So that's where we are. Now we do have a movie cocktail this week. This was the category that came from our patrons. It is 80s teen comedies. The category was selected by our patrons. We did put up 3 movies that were out there on Twitter, on a Twitter poll, and you guys all voted. So it broke down like this. In dead last was Jay with Risky Business. That doesn't mean Risky Business is a bad movie. I would love to come back to it someday.
Yeah. But guess what? I don't think I even voted for my own movie this time around.
Surprisingly, we've done, and this is amazing, because we've done, this is like close to like the 20th or 30th some movie cocktail that we've done, and we have not ever touched a cocktail for the movie cocktail. How do you even get... That would have to be like some acrobatic ass shit. Like we would have to like videotape us making it where like we're just throwing bottles and breaking them because they're all prop bottles. I mean, there's nothing really in those bottles. And then we make the cocktail. But surprisingly, we never touch cocktails. Maybe someday we'll have to come back for like an 80s Tom Cruise like off at some point.
One day. It'll come. It'll come.
Many a categories to get through. So that was in dead last, Risky Business. Then was my choice, The Breakfast Club, which, would have been a whole lot easier to make a cocktail for. Let me tell you, you can theme breakfast stuff around anything. But it was in second place. I believe it had 29% of the votes, and the majority of the votes went to Mark's film, which was Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yes.
Woo! And that is 100% the best John Hughes movie. It is the pinnacle. It's the pinnacle of teen comedies. It's my favorite.
It's probably my top 20 of all time kind of films. Easy.
I love this movie.
Love this movie, yeah.
Love this movie. And I was actually really excited to talk about because there's a ton of stuff to like dive into here.
Yeah.
Like how the script was written, just how John Hughes works, to the characters themselves, Cameron,
It's a very
Ferris,
unique movie.
Sloane. It's very unique. My favorite character, the pedo himself, playing Edward Rooney.
Edward Rooney.
Oh my God, Ed, you sounded like Dirty Harry right there.
He was in everything back then. though.
He was in everything back then. Beetlejuice. He was
Yeah.
in this, and let's just stop naming things
Just
there.
Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck. Howard.
Which we did talk about on this show.
We did do a movie cocktail for Howard the Duck.
So we got that one.
Yeah, so we got that down. But anyway, so Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Let's go around the horn, man. Let's talk about everyone's first experience with this, if you can remember back that far, or let's just talk about overall feelings on the film. Because talking about your first experience, this is one of those movies that's such a classic.
You've seen it so many times, it's hard
Yeah.
to pinpoint exactly
It's
when the
ingrained
first
in
time
you.
was. It is. It's ingrained in you.
I remember my first time.
Tell us
Well,
more.
good for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was a Ferris.
Good for you.
I was a Ferris virgin.
How
at one
was it
point.
for you?
It was good. So I was actually working at Blockbuster when I first saw
Oh,
this. I had
really?
gone like my entire adolescence and teenage years without seeing it. I was
Wow.
like
Wow, okay.
17 or 18 years old, and
Yeah.
I remember like talking about John Hughes movies, and I was a big fan of The Breakfast Club. Had saw that early on in my teen years. So someone's like. This is probably the first time I even heard like John
Probably
Hughes.
my brother.
No, I don't think it was. I
okay.
think this was someone like at Blockbuster.
Okay. Oh,
'Cause,
just like someone who came in.
yeah, and they were like, "Wait, have you ever seen any other John Hughes films?" I was like, "John who? John what? Who's that?" And it, then they start.
They probably
rattling
looked
off.
at you like, and you work
Oh, you didn't
here?
know.
You work here,
You
yeah.
really didn't know?
No, I really didn't know at the
okay.
time. So and then I went through like the pantheon of his films, found out that like some of the movies that like I really loved and had seen a bunch of times were actually written by him. They're not all directed by him. Home Alone, right? The Great Outdoors,
Yeah, lots of great ones.
Lots of great ones. She's Having a Baby, not so
Planes,
great.
Trains, and Automobiles.
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Like we can just go on and on about John Hughes, but it caused me to go through like all his films and just start checking them out. And I got the Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and it definitely stands out above the other ones because a lot like Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, it has a lot of like fantasy elements to it where you're not really quite sure what's real. Like you think about Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, they're having the visions when they're on the road and stuff like that. He sees John Candy as the devil and like all that stuff. It
breaks some walls.
There's some surreal moments.
Yeah, it's very cartoonish and stuff like that. And that's what Ferris is, a fucking cartoon character.
It's almost like a Looney Tune-esque film in some ways.
I love when the main character speaks to the camera as well. Like in Wayne's World, like he does
I
that.
do. And certain movies are able to pull that off, obviously,
like
and some
breaking the fourth
aren't.
wall
But
and all
like
that,
but it does take a certain actor.
Movies can pull
a certain actor to pull that off as well.
Movies can pull it off if they sell you on a character that can pull it off.
Right.
Like
And Matthew
first off.
Broderick was so essential to this. And that's what John Hughes said as well.
Exactly. Like if you
Do
didn't
it all working,
if you
there was
didn't
a lot of great actors that were up for this role. I mean, there was.
We'll talk about that.
But we'll get down there
on the back end.
Yeah.
But like if you didn't like Ferris as a character in the first 5 minutes,
It wouldn't work.
When he starts talking to the camera, you would be annoyed. You would, if same thing with like Zach Morris, like if
it's very, very, very Zach Morrissey, in a lot of ways. But like when you think about
Jay, this is the prototyp for Zach Morris.
Sure. No, you're right. You're right. They are inspired.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah,
they're inspired from this movie, 100%. You're right, absolutely. And hence I love Zach Morris. But so even with the first 5 minutes, he's not even speaking really.
Yeah.
But
it is almost like
he's doing things that we all did when we were fucking kids, so we can relate to it, and or at least even all it takes is one little thing.
It is almost like you know him from the very beginning of the movie, which is why it works.
He was as good at faking sick like as I was. Like I wasn't like
I aspired to that. I could never get.
Yeah, I mean, I was so like I
used to put the thermometer into the heater. I thought I was pretty cool with that. That was pretty much the extent.
I got headaches a lot as a kid, so like faking a headache, there's no symptoms for that. Your head just hurts. But I mean, I would get headaches a lot. So I had to play like this careful balance of like, do I really have a headache today? How do I act when I have a headache? My mom gets migraines, so I used to watch how she acted and then do the same thing, and then she would relate. And then it's like, the punchline is you do it too much though.
Yeah.
And then when you actually do have a migraine and there's daggers in your eyes and your mom makes you go to school and you wind up throwing up in the middle of class because
you cried wolf.
Oh,
cried wolf too many times. That happened.
Yeah.
That happened to me.
It sounds very specific.
2 years of therapy for that one.
But I mean, I used to be really good. I remember like I faked being sick once, and this is true. I faked being sick.
I've done it once or twice,
and I got away with it.
I wish I did.
I got the day off.
I got away with it.
I did the
You had your own own day off.
I did the masturbation contest. I wasted mine. Trust me. I think I got up to like a respectable 8 times.
Well, at that age, I mean,
bad.
it was,
not bad. I was young. I was like
8 times.
I was like 14.
Yeah, that's doable.
So I hadn't actually seen the movie yet. And then, what wound up happening, though, was like the next day, I woke up feeling like shit. And I had a legit fever this time. I had a legit...
What, from jerking off too much?
Yeah, exactly.
Probably.
I had a legit sore throat. And
You dehydrated yourself, Dave. You removed all the bodily
Exactly
fluids out of your system.
So like, so my mom, like, eventually after like the 3rd day, my mom's like, we better go get this checked out. I go to the doctor, and here, like, I had strep throat. I had fake sick into giving myself actual strep throat. And
Damn.
And here's what happened. Like, I actually had a sore throat, tried to fake sick weeks before that. It didn't work. I actually had to go to school. Then the sore throat went away. And then all of a sudden I start feeling, I start feeling fine. And then I get sicker. And then I found out that's what happens with strep throat when it kind of goes away and the infection goes away from your throat and goes into your bones and your joints. And then it becomes streptococcus. And I had to take a very special antibiotic to get rid of it. It was a good time. It was like having an STD just from jerking off one day.
Wow, that's impressive, actually.
It is. So I did have my own day off, and I wasted it. But I didn't have a cool friend like Cameron, who had a.
Well, I don't know if Cameron was cool, but
Cameron's cool.
his dad was cool because he had a
Cameron's
Ferrari.
cool. Cameron's
Well, in this day and age,
Cameron's
he's cool.
a different kind of cool.
So anyway, I fell in love with this movie after watching it for the first time. I love, it's available on Netflix right now. By the way, if you're listening to this and you haven't seen it in a while,
Netflix shill over here.
No excuse. Go watch it right
it's
now.
streaming on Netflix.
Yeah.
So go check it out. Jay, your thoughts on it? Anything you want to relate to?
Well, just 100% how it changes. The older you get more and more out of it. You get more and more jokes from it. You get to side with Cameron more. Because when I was a fucking kid, I really didn't care about Cameron that much. I didn't really follow his storyline more until I got older.
Right.
And
Maybe because I saw it when I was older, but I've always related to Cameron more.
I've always been Cameron.
Well,
because
because I am. Right.
I'm a dark horse.
I got the daddy issues like Cameron does, right? So that's how I related.
My brain goes strange places. Like, I've been on the edge of a diving board, staring into the crystal blue water, just going,
abyss.
"What does it feel like?" Let's find out. Maybe someone will save me. Maybe Ferris Bueller, you're my hero.
But I just absolutely adored his confidence and unpredictability and fun and just the humor of it all.
So
and it's things I can relate to.
Here's what I'm realizing.
Ferris
Ferris Bueller would be like your Tyler Durden.
Sure.
Yeah, because he is in every way charismatic that you are not. I mean, that's just 100% true.
Yeah.
And he takes the risk, and he doesn't know when the gambit is up, and he just keeps it going.
He keeps pushing it.
It keeps going.
Have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, this is what Danny Ocean was like when he was a teenager. He doesn't know when it's over, but when to turn it off, and it's just always on. And there's something that's lovable about that,
and
in
exhausting too.
And exhausting, right?
Like, can you imagine dating him?
Could you imagine?
But you can see that with his girlfriend even sometimes. Like, she actually, there's small little moments where you see that she's like, she knows that he's exhausting.
Right,
and
she
he's
relates to Cameron's.
He relates to Cameron very much.
Like when
Cameron was trying to tap that shit.
Cameron was trying to tap anything. That dude needed to get laid. He
Anything
just
that-
looked like it.
Yeah.
Just the actor looked
He
like he needed to get
release.
laid.
It was,
But he didn't get laid.
29 years old playing
Well, I
an
know, I was
18-year-old.
gonna bring
Come
that
on.
up, but-
He didn't get laid until he was on Spin City.
wow.
Callbacks to a show from the 1990s that I really enjoyed.
I enjoyed that.
Michael J. Fox?
I enjoyed that
Yeah.
show. It was a great show. Then,
Slash Charlie Sheen.
Let's just talk about that for the rest
yeah,
of the
then Parkinson's just stole just one of our great 80s
I never
actors.
got into that show.
What, Spin City?
And now it's getting dark.
I mean, I don't know if it holds up.
I mean, I know
I'll
of
be
the
honest,
show. I just never watched it.
I haven't seen it since
Barry
the late
Bostwick?
90s. Yeah, come on. Yeah, I gotta see
Come
it.
on now.
Yeah, see it.
Just saying.
You've
Nothing against it. Nothing against
Okay.
it. I never saw it. I mean, I knew of it.
Turn on any channel at like 2 in the afternoon.
Oh,
It'll
boy.
probably be on.
What network?
I don't know.
Mark, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, man. First off, this is your first time winning in season 2, is it not?
No, I'm the one that hasn't won
What
yet,
would
I
you
think.
consider?
You won.
Or maybe once.
Well, how many
won
wins
one.
do I have total? 2
Early.
or 3? 3. I don't know.
You won with Howard the Duck.
Yes.
last season.
That's my claim to fame.
Yeah. And
Howard the Duck, that was
There
like
was one
season
other
1.
one.
There was one
besides
other
this.
one, yeah.
So I'm not sure, but I didn't really expect to win. I thought you would win this one.
With Rob gone, you actually have a chance of like catching up. I'm at 3.
Well, you know
So-
I don't care about that, but I just pick movies that I like, and I honestly, this is one of my favorites of all time. This movie. Let me tell you what I used to do. So I used to, when I would stay home sick from school, and I'd actually be sick because I wasn't smart enough to actually fake being sick. That would have been really smart. But I would, when I was actually sick and I was staying home from school.
If only as early 30-somethings we could look like we do every day when we were 16 trying to fake sick, right?
Man, what I would give.
We look haggard right now. And like if we could just borrow the crow's feet in the bag
I know, but
that
now
are
you
under
look
all
back.
of our eyes. Yeah. You look
back, you're like, wow, you should have probably done something.
We should have done something.
But
at
what
that
I
time.
did,
instead,
Dave
just trying to
and
break
Jay,
your 8-time record. Never beat it. Never beat it. Never. Beat
Well, I did that, of course. But also, what I would do is I would stay home and from school, and I would watch this movie. I would just lay in my bed, sick. My mom would bring me whatever, something, soup or something, tea maybe, and I just sit there in my bed and watch this movie every time. Every time I was sick, I would watch this movie. Which now seems like a waste, but at the time,
it does.
At the time, it seemed like the best idea. And you know what?
The most famous line.
I had a great.
The most
fucking
famous
time.
line of the movie is that life moves pretty fast.
Well, my life does revolve around movies, so I guess it makes sense.
So yeah,
but no, I mean, it was honestly, I had a great fucking time with it, and I loved it every time. And it wasn't the only thing I did. It's only a 2-hour movie or something like that. But
less than that.
Yeah, less than that. So, but it was part of my ritual when I stayed home. So this movie does mean a lot to me just for that.
If I had seen the movie, I would have walked around my house just going.
Well, yeah. I mean, like I know exactly what you're talking about. There's so many, like Jay was saying, memorable. Like there's so many memorable parts of it, and just quotable lines and things like that. So I never got sick of watching it. Let's put it that way. And
fair enough.
Even to
this
day.
is like a desert island type movie almost.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's infinitely
fun movie, too.
infinitely
Because
quotable, infinitely washable,
And it has its moments. It has its dramatic moments. It
Yeah,
has its
there's
levity.
more to it than just
it's not just
like with
slapstick.
Cameron
it's
and
not just
his dad
corny
and
stuff.
everything.
So real quick before we
And
jump,
it has a musical number.
before we jump, it does, and
a couple, yeah.
Yeah, a couple actually.
It's always been like a thing that I had a problem with because that's the moment for me where reality and fantasy are blending so fucking hard. That
Oh, it's definitely a fantasy.
And I was like, oh god, I don't know what's real in this movie anymore. Once the entire
what
city starts dancing,
But that's what makes it so epic.
So
right.
Before we get into the cocktail and the ingredients and everything like that, I have to know from you guys, have you ever skipped school and what did you do with your day off? And I don't mean like faking sick and staying home and stuff like that. Did you ever skip school, Jay? Did you ever take a day off and just skip?
Unfortunately, I did not. I was a pussy.
Mark, did you ever skip school? Did you ever take a day, skip it?
Again, I am a Cameron, so no.
No.
I did not
Oh
do
man. So on senior skip day, like it's obviously tradition for all seniors to skip school.
Oh, well, yeah, I skipped.
Yeah, but
okay,
you
I skipped
didn't-
that day and I played golf. That was
Okay.
it. Nothing crazy.
God, you just nothing. No Caddyshack moments.
No.
Oh,
No.
good looking kid. Oh, Jesus, look at I know why Tigerita young. So I didn't skip on senior skip day. I actually went to school because I know that was going to be a breezy, easy day. You're just going to sit in school. You're going to shoot the shit all day. No one's going to do anything all that day because there's no one in classes.
Mr. Smarty Pants.
Exactly what happened. So then the next day, me and all my friends skipped school. We went to the beach and everything like that. And then I got stuck there. All my friends, I walked off. I did like the thing where you're just like, I'm going to go peruse the beach and stuff like that. Came back. Must have walked definitely like a half mile further than where we were. Everybody fucking left me. And I was like, the fuck? And they're like, dude, we thought you just like caught a ride home or like you were getting late or something. I was like, look at me. Fucking look at me. You think I just perused down the fucking beach in Wildwood and I got random ass in the middle of the day?
Dave,
You think that's what
At
happened?
that age, you were a stud lacrosse player.
I was.
Strange.
I was. But I still had back hair, so
That's a turn on for some girls.
It wasn't happening. I looked like
You have a woman to sign a contract for that back hair.
right.
All right?
I looked like the
Don't forget it, Dave.
I look like the offspring of Robin Williams, like at that time. It's like
Who's a beloved actor?
is that muscle there? And it's like there's a very little bit. You just got to get through the curls. You got to get through the short curls.
Someone's got to be into that.
Yeah.
So I ended up having to like call a friend to like literally drive all the way down to Wildwood
and-
to,
yeah, an hour and a
pick
half
me
probably.
up. Yeah, and like he was the type of friend that was like, gas money, please. And it's like, fucking shit. So I had to like give him $60 to get my ass home. And yeah, it was just a nightmare. I did wind up getting home like in time for dinner and stuff like that. I don't think my parents knew. They know now, obviously, listening to this, but it's not like I did anything crazy. I think we did. This is where I learned the trick, Jay, that we use now when we go to the beach. You take Blue Zombie and you pour it into a Gatorade bottle, and that's what you take onto the beach to drink. That's what we did on my senior skip day. And so I'd like to think at least I took one day off and did something meaningful with it. Yeah, at least I had that one. Meaningful, I guess, is a terrible word. I did something.
Yeah, more than masturbation.
More than masturbation.
That was good.
So let's get into our drink this time around. So because all of us tend to be more of Cameron's, we kind of felt like maybe Cameron got the short end of the stick in this movie, and we wanted to pay a little bit homage to Cameron with our cocktail. So the cocktail is Cameron's Day Off, and what it is it's 2 ounces of bourbon barrel-aged rum. You could probably get away with like a medium brown rum, anything, but you do want to look for something that is barrel-aged, something with a little bit of a smoky profile, because that's kind of like the little bit of a flavor we're going for. Then you're going to add in 2 ounces of Cran-Raspberry Juice and a half ounce of lime juice, 1/4 ounce of Grenadine Syrup. You're going to shake that in a shaker with ice and then strain it into a glass. Then you're going to take an orange twist, an orange peel. You're going to cut an orange twist out of the peel. You're going to twist it, and after you twist it, you're going to want to burn the white part of it. So you're going to take a lighter.
Be very careful, people.
Yeah, not to burn your fingers, but you are going to burn the white part of that, and you're going to twist it again, and you're going to let the now cooked smoky oils, you're going to rub them a little bit on the tip of your glass, but you're also going to try to let that oil drip into the drink. And believe me, this all goes into making the profile for the drink. And then you are going to take the rest of that twist. You're actually going to wrap it around a thyme branch. So you're going to take a little bit of thyme and you're going to wrap that around this. You're going to put that in the drink, and you're going to actually light the thyme on fire now too. You're going to want to let it get smoky. You're gonna want to let it get a little embered, and when you take it, I mean, come on, you guys smoke weed, you know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Once it's done, you take the flame off, you blow on the thyme a little bit, you let the embers grow just a little bit, and you let it get a little bit smoky. Don't worry, the smoke will go away. Your smoke detectors won't go off. It dissipates pretty quickly. You top that with a little bit of fresh raspberries, and you serve your drink. And what it does is, because of the barrel aged rum and the smoked orange peel and the smoked thyme, you get like a really nice smoky flavor. And you're also going to garnish
a very unique smoky kind of flavor, not something that you would initially expect.
Right. So you're also going to garnish with a lime wheel. So what is all this getting to? Well, first off, the drink is red, just like Cameron's dad's Porsche, and the lime wheel
Ferrari.
Just like Cameron's dad's Ferrari, and you're going to garnish with the lime wheel, which is the wheel of the Ferrari, and the smoke. It's like burning rubber, man. Just like it's just a little bit representation for Cameron. Not to mention, Cameron wears a Red Wings jersey throughout the entire film. So that's that's kind of what we're homaging to here. This is Cameron's Day Off.
Yes.
So it actually winds up being a pretty darn good drink, if I say so myself. Jay, you thought the same?
Yes, shockingly so.
It is so choice. If you have the means, I highly recommend picking one up.
I really thought it was going to turn out to be something completely different, and it really completely wowed me. It's certainly balanced in a way that I didn't think was even possible, and subtle, but yet you still get all of those little flavors that we just talked about and described in it. So I think this is one of those, believe it or not, probably one of the most impressive cocktails that has come up.
I worry,
when you really think about it and you break it down with all the different kind of cocktails and all the different kind of things going on with this. This is probably one of the most well-rounded, impressive cocktails.
I worry when I start getting crazy like this. I'm like, all right, am I getting like too artisan, right? Because like the Karate Kid cocktail.
Well, you can look at it and say, look, it looks like a garden growing in a glass.
It does.
But at the same time, like, looks can be deceiving. But it is. That's the thing. It's the drink tastes the opposite of what it looks like.
Yeah.
It literally does. It's not as crazy as it looks.
This looks like a fruity drink.
It's
looks like
so
It tastes like it
well
looks like
balanced with the subtle. Yeah, it looks like a horrible old fashioned wannabe or something. I don't know. Who knows? But like the point is,
Science project
I
going on.
highly recommend everybody to try this if you really want something really unique and really interesting, and you're willing to give it a shot because it's going to take a lot of effort. Give this one a shot.
Yeah, Mark, what did you think of it?
I can definitely picture drinking this on your day off. For sure. So,
for sure.
Yeah, it's just a really like pleasant, fruity drink.
Yeah, it's fruity and smoky, which is kind of
The
weird.
smokiness is what makes it, though. I think
I want to say that
it balances it out.
usually, we have like an author for the cocktail. This one was very much a group effort because we were making this cocktail without Rob, pretty much. This was supposed to be Rob's cocktail to make. This was going to be his category. And Rob was once a bartender, so he does come up with like really good ideas for cocktails at times. So we kind of had to just step in and fill the void this time. We did it together, guys.
3 of us to equal 1 Rob.
It took 3 of us to equal 1 Rob.
But we did all right, though. I think came out pretty well.
It's not too bad. I really enjoy it. I'll post pictures.
We're going to do a lot more collaborations going forward, guys.
So we're going to post this one online, and we will also put in the ingredients and the instructions on how to make it and everything. It'll go up on Twitter. It'll go up on the Instagrams. We'll drop lines for those at the end of the show. But we're not done yet. We got to go talk about the movie itself, not scene by scene, but go through some of our favorite scenes of the film. And then towards the end, we will talk about some of the behind the scenes goodness and get into our next movie cocktail category.
I'm so disappointed in Cameron. $20 says he's sitting in his car debating about whether or not he should go out.
He'll keep calling me. He'll keep calling me until I come over. He'll make me feel guilty. This is ridiculous, okay? I'll go.
Pardon my French, but Cameron is so tight that if you stuck a lump of coal up his ass, in 2 weeks you'd have a diamond.
When Cameron was in Egypt's land, let my Cameron go.
All right, so Ferris Bueller's Day Off. This movie came out in 1986, written and directed by
John Hughes.
And obviously, we already talked about it. It stars Matthew Broderick, and it doesn't really, and Jeffrey Jones, big time in the 80s.
Ben Stein.
Mueller.
Who has like one scene. But
Mueller.
Jeffrey
Very
Jones,
memorable.
Jennifer Grey, Mia Sarah. I mean, it's she,
Charlie Sheen.
It's
Something-
Charlie Sheen makes a small
something
cameo.
Everyone shows up in this.
Something DOO economics, voodoo economics. I love the puddle of drool that's just like going across the desk as the kid is sleeping and stuff.
It's perfect.
The first
I can relate to that because I used to be a big time desk sleeper.
the first half of this movie, not half, the first like act of this movie is very much like the high school experience, right? Like
It was a part that I loved watching it sick when I would stay home because I was like, this is what I'm missing.
this is
Yes!
what, yeah, like
This is
it's-
great.
It very much like is in this vein where like that is how you
That's
felt
what school
about
felt
school,
like, yeah.
right? It's I mean now as adults where we go to work, we have deadlines, we got shit we got to do, and we have all this frustration in life. Going to school would be a fucking blessing for us. I mean, think about it. 7 hours.
I don't know, man. It kind of sucked.
You get a full hour of lunch and stuff.
Yeah,
it seems
it was
like
lunch.
it's super easy. All you got to do is sit there and copy notes off of the nerdy kid. And,
Still sounds exhausting.
but like you watch this and it's like it is the worst thing to like these kids all look like they're being tortured. But you also get like the sense of how the entire school and how everybody feels about Ferris.
Yeah.
Everybody with the exception of 2 people. His sister, played by Jennifer Grey, and the principal, Edward Rooney, played by Jeffrey Jones. So it's a fun look at high school, but also like a very like the whole rest of the movie, a very fantasy look at things as well.
Everything's like hyper realized.
Right.
sort of,
School
yeah.
is not that
Surreal.
boring.
Well-
and there's no one who is that popular, that well liked in your school.
Well, the whole movie is essentially playing up on all the tropes.
Yeah.
Movie tropes,
It is like a
character
fantasy
tropes,
sort
school tropes, popular kids, the geeky kids,
And like you said, I mean, no one really existed like Ferris. Ferris is kind of
Fathers,
like he's sort of like a mythic being. In a
Right?
way.
Yeah, he's very.
He's what a lot of people wanted to be, I guess. Or
Yeah, and you had people who were like Ferris in high school, right? Like, there's always a guy who's like that, but obviously not
to some degree. Yeah,
not turned to 11.
He's almost
this.
like a folk hero or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You
but
know?
like always somebody that was always uber positive and happy and
Just his
just kind of
outlook
like
on
knew
life
everybody,
was-
but was not like a dick to everybody. Like was
everyone like
So that's-
an actual nice.
So that's one. That's one of the things like I thought about while watching this movie. Everybody loves Ferris, but he doesn't hang out with everybody, right? Like he's not friends with her. He's the guy that shows up at the party and spends 30 seconds with each person, shows his face, and then buggers off with his buddy Cameron and disappears, right? Like,
but that just made him even
like
cooler.
my ideal. That's
Right.
perfect.
right? Like everyone and I love
Doesn't
like
overstay his
he
welcome.
didn't try to hard to be liked.
and I love the idea of the rumor spreading about where Ferris is, and the girl is just like,
now
my
he's
best
dying.
friend's cousin's sister said she saw him pass out at 31 Flavors last night, and it's like,
Everyone has a story about him.
everyone's got a story about him, and like he even
and
called-
his sister is overhearing it all and just getting growingly even more and more pissed off.
But I
about
mean,
it.
the scene that like really sells you on just how well loved he is. He calls the payphone at school, and they just talk to him, and they just keep passing the phone off to random people walking by,
Yeah.
and like he's on the other end just talking to people, and he's like, "Who else is around? Pass me to someone else." Like it's now when I'm watching it, I was like,
One of a kind.
What an exhausting life. He's selling himself. Like that's what he's doing.
But he loves it though. You can tell.
Oh, he loves it. He feeds off of it. If he didn't have the mother and father, the loving mother and father he had, I just watched the documentary Don't Fuck with Cats. So he would definitely become a serial killer. Like he is a psychopath because he had a loving family.
Okay.
He is not putting cats into a vacuum seal
He
bag.
is not that person.
And killing kittens and stuff.
Okay.
But he very easily is that type of person. Like he is that person that feeds on that type of attention. If he had a negative background growing up, if he had some poor experiences, he very easily could have turned to that way because
he would have been a great drug dealer.
he is a
he probably was.
He's a narcissist. He's a narcissist.
Yeah, he is.
But he also does want people to have a good time. You do believe that.
He does, but at the same time, it's all about his good time.
Yeah.
Think about
But he helps his friend out though.
Does he?
Yeah.
Think about his role with Cameron in the beginning of the movie. He
gets him out of the house.
He gets him out of the house, and then he fucking steals his dad's car.
It's perspective,
racks up the
right?
mileage.
Look, he makes him have a life-changing moment. So
maybe in the grand
It all
scheme
depends
of
how
things,
you look at it.
Right,
It
so
does
we-
depend on how you look at it, and that's great conversation piece.
We
to
do
have.
all need this person to break us out of our shell. Sometimes
Yeah.
Jay has me break him out of his shell.
Right.
Sometimes Jay needs that.
some people need fire under.
Oh,
the
I
ass.
can definitely say I need that.
Yeah, I
a
used to
lot.
be the guy
You're his Ferris.
Jay is very
That's true.
handsome, right? Like he's a handsome guy. He's tall. He's good looking. He's well built. He
Well,
looks
easy there.
Yeah, he's the type of guy that women should like. If he was a celebrity, they would like sling panties at him and stuff like that. But Jay is also tragically shy. He is not good at starting conversations. He just walks up and goes, "I."
I just don't go up. I wait for the. I just don't date until someone comes up to me and
Drink me, buy you one, please. I buy you a drink, please. So instead, I was a guy who, I mean,
Dave did. Dave was a fan fucking tastic wingman.
I'm practically like 5'5", 275,000 pounds.
You have the personality of a 6 foot tall.
Right. And I would just walk up to ladies and be like, "So, what's up?" Like, "My friend over there. He's been looking at you. What are you and your ladies up
What
to
a
tonight?"
great wingman.
Yeah? What do you like? Yeah, come on over, hang out. Fireball shots? Jaeger bombs. Let's do it. Yeah, get everyone wrecked.
So you were kind of like Ferris.
Yeah, a little bit, but not to the extent. I wasn't that cool. I mean, deep down inside, all everything that I'm putting out.
Well, I didn't say you were cool. Dude.
It's everything that I put out was really me hiding my insecurities over this.
Maybe that's
Sure.
this right.
Maybe that's what Ferris
Over this fantastical personality that I had when I would get a beer or two in me. Like that's what it was.
There's got to be something behind what Ferris Ferris is doing. But,
Exactly.
but for this brief time that we see him, we don't really get too into his character. We actually get more into Cameron's
we get more into Cameron. Exactly.
which is interesting.
Which is interesting. And I love that moment where we meet Cameron because it is such a perfect, like.
But it's also John Hughes, too, right? He does have a flair for shining a lot of light on the light and the dark.
Well, he's also
characters.
He's also the guy that like creates the archetypes of the teenagers
and that too.
that we know today that still echo into films today.
He's the original guy.
Right.
No one's ever done it before.
With Breakfast Club, we got the archetypes, right? Like he took what had come from teenage movies before, Rebel Without a Cause, Grease, these teenage movies, Porky's, where they had like these archetypes, and he really put a hard stamp on each archetype with Breakfast Club and put it out there. And with this is almost like breaking that mold a little bit.
What would be the other? I mean, Grease. Like
that's what I said.
Grease, like something like that. Maybe that had a big ensemble,
right?
But other than that, like
Reefer Madness.
But even that, I mean, it's like.
Mark, have you done Reefer Madness on Cult Movie Cult yet?
No, not yet. I'm sure we will at some point.
At some point, it's got to happen. It's got to happen. But I love the moment between Ferris and Cameron when he calls Cameron to get him out of bed and stuff, because here's your protagonist and you're meeting his foil, and they're both.
They couldn't be more opposite.
They couldn't be more, and that's what a foil is.
Yeah.
Your foil is meant to exist to highlight your hero, your protagonist.
But I think we all have friends like that in a way too,
right? But halfway through towards the end of the movie, it turns. Ferris he's still your protagonist, but Cameron's no longer the foil. He is changed. He is the one that is the hero with 1,000 faces. He starts out as a nobody and becomes a somebody throughout the story.
And also, it's like, is Ferris ever going to grow up, or because you see Cameron
100%.
You see Cameron growing as a character, maturing and everything. But
no, that's the
Ferris.
thing. Ferris
about
is
him.
the dude who he has peaked. This is his peak.
This is his time.
Asking Sloane to marry him now is the smartest thing he'll probably
That's
ever
why
do.
He does it.
Because this is when
knows.
he's peaked.
Yeah.
After this, he's not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
He's also like the sober version of Matthew McConaughey in Dazed and Confused.
Yeah.
But I mean, like Ferris, throughout life, Ferris will charm his way into a mediocre mid-management position, and he will live okay. Cameron will go on to maybe not change the world, but do a lot of things with his life.
He's going to be a quality VP or president or
Fry cook at
CFO.
If there was ever a sequel to Ferris Bueller, that's what the sequel is.
Yeah.
Matthew Broderick is a mid-level, just
he's so depressing.
just mid-management guy, and Cameron is a dude that's been setting the world on fire by being some tech guru or
Merrill
something
Lynch.
like that. Right. He's
I don't know.
But Ferris still has to break him out of his stuffy rich person shell.
Or Cameron breaks him
That's
out.
true.
Or Cameron breaks him out.
All right, let's start writing the script right now.
Now, me and Jay if you listen to our Patreon episode, me and Jay just wrote Speed 3, and I think we have to work on that.
Wait, I want to hear about Speed 3.
Sick.
I'll play you the Patreon episode.
Is it more like
so
Speed
good.
1 or Speed 2?
Speed 1.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
But picture this. Instead of Dennis Hopper, right?
Yeah.
Mel Gibson.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
As your villain.
Okay.
And then Keanu Reeves obviously back.
Mark, you got more excited than that. Come
No,
on.
I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I'm intrigued.
Right.
All right.
Except the real horror is that Mel Gibson is driving after he's had a fifth of vodka.
All right. Now I'm in.
Now, granted, this was towards the end of our recording night, and we were hyped on this.
Sounds amazing. Mel Gibson's day off.
Mel Gibson's day off.
Oh my god. Oh boy.
But anyway, yes. So that's kind of like our treatment for Speed 3. We would love to do that. I would love to do like a Ferris Bueller too, but not like real, right? Like just 5 to 10 minute long skits, right? Like this is how it would really be.
It's funny because we were just before we started recording, we were talking about movies that you can't touch, you can't remake them, you can't make sequels. We were talking about
right because there's the rumor in the news out there that possibly Universal is looking into a reboot of Jaws.
That one hurts. That one hurts.
And the word reboot was specific, which means
let's just not bring this up ever again.
The first one would still stand, and probably second, third, and fourth
It's
just don't
like
exist.
The Terminator.
Stand,
what the fuck?
But it would be a reboot of it.
What I was getting at was this Ferris Bueller's Day Off, to me, you can't touch it. I mean,
right.
It's just its own thing. It's it is what it is, and I feel like if you could, because I think they actually
listen here, you Hollywood cocksucking hacks. You don't touch The Godfather. You don't touch Jaws, and you don't fucking touch Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Damn right.
That's it. I mean,
But
that's what it comes down to. Don't fucking touch them.
Because this movie was a pretty big hit, I think, when it came out. And they also
They try to do sequels, and
they
Matthew
talked
Broderick
about maybe
refused.
doing sequels, but I know that Matthew Broderick at least was against it.
Well, come on, it's true.
Isn't
because he
Citizen
knows
Kane
that-
due for a reboot by now?
Oh God, don't even start. But maybe he knew. Maybe Matthew Broderick knew that the character couldn't really go anywhere from there. It's
I don't think
this is his time.
Listen, he's peaked.
He has
It would
peaked.
destroy
He's peaked.
He
the
can only
whole
exist
movie
in this time frame.
and the whole themes behind
Do
them.
you guys remember like Back to the Future 2? As I'm looking up
Yes.
my Back to the Future 2 shoes,
Yeah. I
and
do.
we see what Marty McFly looks like 30 years from now.
Yes.
We were sad. we don't want to see Ferris Bueller 30
Do our
years.
kids become assholes or something?
It's hard to look at Matthew nowadays.
We gotta do something about your kids, Marty.
That's why he has no acting career right now.
Yeah.
Hey, he was just on Modern Family as a guest spot. I love
Characters
Oh.
should not grow up, and
No.
I think Ferris is one of those.
Ferris is one of those characters. So we get into like the whole day off now, right? Like, and the entire gambit. And I do love the setup. And I like how intricate his plan is. In fact, his plan to stay off is that his plan is so intricate that if any one thing fell apart, his entire day falls apart,
Let's
right?
just get this out of the way right now. They do a shitload in this day. They do a lot. And it's been theorized that there's no way they could have possibly done all of these things in one
Well, me and
day.
Jay talk about this. Like we talk about movies that take place in Philadelphia,
Yeah.
where they go from one end of the city
Right.
to another. And I think we talked about this on a movie cocktail, recently. But the amount of stuff that they do in Chicago is absolutely ridiculous.
Well,
You
even
can't-
taking travel aside, I mean, they they go to a baseball game.
First off, you go to the art museum, and by the way, they're starting their day at like 10 or 11 a.m.
Right.
They're
already getting
out.
a late start.
They're
to
already
the day,
getting a
yeah.
late start in the day. And then they go to the art museum, they go sightseeing, they go to
Baseball
a parade,
game,
a baseball game,
Sears Tower.
Sears Tower, and then they also have lunch.
They have lunch.
So me and my wife, like, we recently took a day off, as in the summer, took a day off, and we went down to Center City, Philadelphia, and we're like, we're going to do like all this stuff. We had
like one thing.
We had like a
White
little
thing.
bit of lunch. We went to the Muter Museum. We
Yeah.
spent a morning there, and then we did Liberty Tower, Liberty One, the tallest
Yeah.
building in Philadelphia, and our day was shot. Like that's it.
Yeah. I mean, of course, we don't have the
and we left
the energy of a high
and
school
we
kid,
left
but-
the house. We were on the train by 8 a.m.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then
Right.
by the time we were like, look at that, it's getting to be rush hour. We better get ourselves home.
Yeah.
Not to mention, they get home before rush hour.
Right. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
They're at home in time to relax before the parents even
But
come
here's
home.
the thing, because this movie is so singular and so its own thing, it almost doesn't matter. And I mean, I personally, when I watch it, I don't care. Because if you try to break it apart, obviously it's not going to make any sense. But because it is sort of like a fantasy, like we talked about before, I think it works. in a
Obviously,
certain way.
every movie plot can be broken down
If you
and
take
dissected,
a-
and it doesn't work.
if you take a magnifying glass to any movie, I mean,
Right.
you're gonna. But this one, yeah.
But it is the level of charm with the characters
It's
and
the
their
charm,
interactions with
yeah.
each other that help you forget everything that's going on.
And there's some cartoon-like moments, so you're kind of like, all right, we're in a different sort of realm right now.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Where everyone's looking for Ferris, and there he is on the parade float,
Right.
And of course he sings Dunkashane, and then he breaks into.
Dunkashane.
And I've listened to this a couple of times. That is the original Twist and Shout, right? That they're playing.
I believe-
that is the Beatles.
I
right?
believe, yeah, that's the Beatles. I'm pretty sure.
It's not a cover. Because this is before Michael Jackson owned it and like locked it away in his
Yeah,
weird
way
little
before
Disney
that,
vault.
yeah.
So you could get Beatles songs pretty easy as long as Paul signed on the dotted line and you paid him
Well,
enough money.
it was still rare though. It
was.
Yeah, the Beatles didn't really lend out their music very, very often.
No, and it was great because I remember when we were watching it on Netflix, I rewinded it like 3 times because I was just trying to hear that. Well, shake it up, baby, now, and I was like, "Is that Paul McCartney?"
Yeah,
I think it is.
I'm pretty sure.
I
Yeah.
think it is. I think it's Paul. So yeah, I think this is the original. That's something to be said because it took a long ass time for the Wonder Years to get released on home video. And for it to get a streaming release
Because of the music,
because of the music. And to this, there's some songs on there that have been transferred into covers and no longer the original songs because it has the license has gone away.
With movies, it's a little bit different because you have to have that all in line before it comes out. With TV, they can just throw anything in there.
That's true.
So,
So,
but
But anyway, it's just a little interesting
Yeah.
fact about how movies are made and stuff like that.
It is cool. I mean, I like the musical.
You have to
sequences.
renew that license too if you want to keep distributing the movie too. So they have to continue to.
Oh, well, I guess
renew
with streaming now, I guess it's a little different.
you have to renew that license to use that song.
But I think the musical sequences, I think they work again because it is so over the top. I think it just makes sense in this movie. And the fact that he's in a parade, it's just like, oh yeah, okay, Ferris is in a parade.
And then of course we get home, and after they've stolen Cameron's father's Ferrari,
Right.
one of only 100 that made it to the United States from Italy, and the parking garage guy and his buddy steal it. They bottom out in it, and I'm a guy who actually works on cars for a living. So when I see that scene and I see a car like go over a big hill, which
God.
I think was filmed in San Francisco.
Of course, how you gonna?
But he goes up on the hill and he slams down and it bottoms out and the sparks come out, and I was like, well, that thing needs a new radiator. And
feel that one, yeah.
it's gonna need a suspension alignment for sure. And on a Ferrari, I'm sure suspension alignment isn't your $79.95 Meineke job. It is going to be a hefty bill. Hefty bill.
All you have to do is run the tires backward, and you're
Right. So running the
40,
tires backwards
$50,000.
doesn't matter because a dude who loves his car this much is definitely going to notice the curb rash all on the bottom of his car. So he was fucked from Jump Street. It doesn't matter. But anyway, so all that stuff happens. They get the car back. They take it home. They see the mileage, and they go through this entire thing where Cameron just shuts down. And I think all of us have had that moment in our life where, I mean, especially as teenagers, either it came as a result of a breakup or a big fuck up that we got caught in by our parents, where we just mentally shut down. And I don't know if anyone else has had that, but like,
it's kind of it's like beyond fear.
Right.
And beyond
does anyone
being scared?
Does anyone remember being in trouble so much that you went to your room and like it went from light to dark, but you didn't bother turning on a light and you just sat in the dark? Did anyone else ever have that? Because like I've had that.
I've probably.
And I was waiting for the moment when my dad came home.
I got in trouble.
And I remember like how scary it was because like my dad came home and like the lights came on downstairs and like the crack in my door was dark and then it lights up. And it's like, dun, dun, dun. It's like, I don't remember what I did. I just remember being that petrified of the result. And my dad was never a guy who hit me, beat me. Sure, he screamed and stuff like that. But I mean,
you got it easy.
Yeah.
Cameron's also seeing his future.
I had a special belt.
He's seeing his future being taken away because, I mean, he probably thought he was going to be sent to military school. Or something like that. So,
yeah. Well, you know.
I mean, this is a big deal. So
it's a little bit more. It's a little bit bigger than what I did.
It's a big deal, but then he realizes that it's really not. Like in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal.
And that's when he let the car go.
Oh no, 100% is a big deal. But the fact that it doesn't matter that the person he's hurting, he doesn't matter to the person that he's hurting.
Right.
So why should this matter to him? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
or he loves the car more than him.
Right.
Or at least that's his perception of it. You know, we never
he's a
meet
teenager.
We never meet
dramatic,
Cameron's dad, right? But,
because it's a trophy, and he worships it, and he spends so much time on that car and not with Cameron.
Right. And these are very upper middle class, if not, just straight up upper class 1%ers living here. Because I mean, he has a showroom for his car that overlooks the fucking woods, right? Like it's just
a whole glass room,
a whole fucking glass room for this.
No
for this
tools
fucking
around.
car.
It's literally a room, a glass room for that car. To exist.
So I mean, I do love that aspect of Cameron because I feel like we've all had that moment. But he has this revelation of like, fuck it. Like, who fucking cares?
Yeah.
And like, I love when he's just bashing that fucking car.
It's so cathartic. And then when it comes through the glass finally.
Oh yeah. But I mean, like, when he's shut down and he almost drowns and Ferris saves him and stuff like that. It's like a near death experience is what snaps him out of his funk a little bit. You know, it's not the end of the world. It's not going to end his life.
Yeah.
Like in those moments when I was afraid of my dad, like I said, my dad never hit me or anything like that. So like, adult me looking back, I feel like Lieutenant Aldo from Inglourious Bastards. More like chewed out. I've been chewed out before. You know what I mean? Like as you get older, you stop being afraid of like getting in trouble because like you realize the consequences aren't that dire.
Right.
You know, and Cameron has that moment where he's just like, I get grounded. So what?
Yeah.
So what?
Right.
You know, or my dad disowns me. He doesn't care about me anyway. Right. So what? You know? And if anything,
I'm going to be developing into that this year.
Yeah,
finally.
hopefully.
I'm finally growing up after 35 years.
But I mean, Cameron's resolution is like it finally now allows him and his dad to talk. They're gonna have it out.
Oh, they're gonna have a talk.
You have to.
And that's the epilogue I want to see. Not Ferris walking out of the shower going, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah.
It's over. Go home. I want to see Cameron's dad just being like, "You fucking shit! Oh my god, I can't believe you would fucking do this." And Cameron's sitting there, and his dad's just like,
but it's almost,
and his dad grabs his left arm and drops to the ground.
But it's almost better that you never, you never see it. It's left to your imagination, like a lot of the movie is.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
It's perfect, and it's a conversation piece, and it's one of those things that adds levity to this comedy.
Yeah.
Adds to the
For all the
levity
silliness going
of
on,
the spectacle
yeah,
in
you
this
have this.
movie,
Right,
because there's
so-
so many elements of spectacle, but also elements, of
after this heavy Cameron,
sure,
moments that we get, which like I said, it's really what I think this movie is John Hughes looking back on his teenage years, right? Like he's
More
looking
so than Breakfast Club. I would
right. He's looking at these moments of levity and the way we look at them as an adult.
Yeah.
And the way we remember that day, right? And that day was so great and it was
gotta
so
have your
perfect.
moment.
And Mark was fucking funny as hell and he did this crazy thing and I did this crazy thing and we all had a fucking blast.
Yeah.
And like but that's not really how it was. As an adult, that is our fantasy about how it was. It wasn't that great. But that's what this movie is. John Hughes looking back at childhood. And that's how we all look back at it. It's how we all look back at our teenage years. Is that it was this fantasy that it happened, but this is the embellished, and when we tell the stories, it's the embellished version of it. Me talking to you guys, telling you how I used to go up to women about Jay, it probably wasn't that smooth. It probably wasn't that funny. It probably wasn't that cool.
Are you saying you embellished, Dave?
No, but what I'm saying is the way I remember me in my 20s is probably not exactly how I was. The way Jay remembers me and him hanging out in our 20s probably isn't how we really were.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't really that way.
It's like your perception.
It's our perception of it as we get older.
sometimes, but it's close. It's close.
In Ferris Bueller, it's not. It's not.
No, I understand. I know.
But that's the point of the movie.
Right.
But what Ferris says at the end is true, though. I mean, life moves pretty fast. So.
And let me bring this up to hark full circle
You
back
should
to
be
a
appreciating
current,
these times.
a current film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, right? They actually have
Which
a
is
similar type of scene.
It's a fantasized version of Hollywood. So
Yes.
True, in a lot of different ways. Now, the Bruce Lee cameo had a lot of controversy because it came up in this movie.
I could kill
And
you.
a lot of people...
My hands are a lethal weapon. If I kill you, I go to jail.
But,
That's pretty good.
but the whole point of this movie, but not just that, the character, Brad Pitt's character, this was a memory scene with him and Bruce Lee. So that's why it's heightened. That's why he got defeated. That's why he's acting the way he's acting.
Right, yeah.
You can't take it personal for Quentin Tarantino to write Bruce Lee as this character because he's not technically.
It's also a
He's
fantasized version of Hollywood where Sharon Tate wasn't slaughtered in her bedroom.
The whole
In her
thing
living
is a
room.
fantasy.
Right, yeah.
It's once upon a time ... in Hollywood, right?
Exactly.
So you got to curb the drama.
Right.
It's exactly the same type of thing. It's really just an embellishment of
Subjective, yeah.
a memory.
So you're saying Tarantino is our modern day John Hughes.
Maybe. Who else would it be?
Who else would be?
I don't know.
I certainly laugh at Quentin Tarantino movies more than I do at some comedies that actually
That's
try to
true,
be funny.
yeah.
Wow.
So-
I understand that because it's.
I mean, I'm sure Jay has some indie comedies he could show you that are.
Usually I see those. I see
Dave
indie
has
comedies.
seen pretty much everything I've ever seen by now.
Yeah. I catch up pretty quick. Little Monsters, my number 3 movie of the year.
Love that movie.
No,
Oh. Like,
Whoa! I'm like, wait a minute.
The 2019 one with Lupita Nyong'o.
okay. All right. I have not seen that
It's an
one.
Australian movie. It's
You got
on,
me excited for
It's on Hulu. Watch it.
Actually, cult movie cult.
Yeah.
How many 2019 movies have you seen this year?
Oh, I don't watch
5.
any. I don't watch any new.
I'm gonna say 5.
I was gonna say.
Well, number one, I don't have time.
I just dawned on me. I'm like, wait a minute. What new movies has?
I'm
been
guessing
seen?
5.
Honestly, Dave. Honestly, Jay. I really try to watch newer movies, but I don't know. I mean, I want
He's seen the rise of Skywalker.
I have seen the rise. I see
Wow.
the big ones.
I would
I
expect
saw
that.
Once Upon a Time. I see a lot.
Okay.
Have you seen? You've seen
Irishman,
Endgame, right?
Did you
Yeah, I've
watch
seen it.
Irishman on Netflix and all that?
I've seen The
and,
Irishman. See, I watch movies.
Endgame. and
I
all
watch
that.
newer
Okay,
movies.
Okay, all right.
Jay trying to catch me.
You just don't. You're just not able to leave the house and to go out in theaters.
Well,
to see too many movies.
I'll say
because
this.
you have a new baby. You have a baby.
I
I,
do have a
understand.
Since doing the podcast, I used to be the guy that watched the Oscars and then
I could care less about the
right, but they would get to Best Pictures and I'd go, huh? What? What's that? And then I would just root for the one that I've seen. But
I've heard Parasite's very good. I do want to see that.
Parasite is amazing.
My number one.
But it is the fantasy version, and even it ends with the Ferris fantasy of racing the car home, right?
We did not rehearse that.
But I mean, yeah. So it even ends with the fantasy of him. Like, do you think he really stopped
When he does that slow motion jump.
So, and one of the things that like really bothered me was like moments after proposing to Sloane, like he sees like two girls like sunbathing, and he goes, "Hi, how you doing, Ferris?"
Well, she didn't say yes.
I love that.
Right, but like so, and I realized that like this is a moment.
Because she's not a moron.
This is a moment
She's
where
18.
John Hughes actually wrote that before he probably wrote anything else. He wrote that chase home before he wrote anything
Well,
else.
he kind of had to
like.
figure it out. Yeah.
I felt like the chase home is where the writing process started, right?
Right.
Like and then he developed the character out of
Maybe,
that
yeah.
and stuff
Who
like
knows?
that. Because like I was like, it doesn't fit with the character really to stop and like hit on a girl and stuff like that.
Are you serious?
I can see it.
He doesn't hit on anyone else throughout the entire movie.
He's just saying hi.
Because he's not around any other girls.
He's not really.
And he's always with his girlfriend during the movie.
He's just being friendly.
That's 100% Ferris.
Just
Are you
being
kidding me? Oh, I bought that.
I bought that,
and
yeah.
running through the
Spades.
house. Oh, it smells
In
good.
spades.
It's good. Can we talk about why the Ferris's family is raising a hellhound? Just this, what drugs is his dad selling through from the basement that they have to hire this beast to fucking
Home
guard
security,
them?
man.
Right, home security. And then the other fantasy is Edward Rooney's fantasy, where everything
Oh, I love that.
is not like everything is against him. Like right,
Yeah.
like he's this guy. He's this guy on a power trip. He's the adult on the power trip that will do anything.
He just wants to catch Ferris. That's all he wants
to beat this kid.
Who's equally as great to watch in
Yeah.
this movie,
Oh,
right?
he's
I mean, he's an unsung hero.
It's such a shame to go back and watch movies and realize that guy's a fucking pederast.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
yeah.
like that dude's blacklisted from Hollywood. He spent some time in prison, all because
You got to separate the art
he had
from
a
the artist.
right. He had a predilection for looking at little boys and girls on his fucking computer at his free time. But,
yeah, we're talking about the movie.
we're talking about the movie.
so-
But but it's tough to watch it now
know.
and see him and just being like,
Look, he's not Jared Fogle, at least.
right.
I'm really good at
had
disconnecting
some good
myself
movie
from
roles.
that. Yeah.
I'm not. I watch that stuff and I'm like, oh god, it bothers me.
I mean, it comes in my mind, and
don't
then I
wanna-
let it go as soon as I start
I'm also
watching
not one of
movies.
those people that's like for like don't play Michael Jackson's songs anymore
You
because
see
like,
the HBO documentary, though? Oof.
Oh yeah,
we talked about
It's
it.
actually hard to listen to his music now, to be honest.
Yeah, it was tough.
Jesus.
But anyway.
Let's play Tummy Sticks.
God.
Oh my god.
Anyway,
Oh, God.
but I do love all the Edward Rooney stuff because like Ferris has this ability that he's not only changing Cameron, he's also changing his sister through his through his absence.
She
he's
loosens up
changing
a
her
little
sister.
bit by
right?
the
Yeah,
end of it.
yeah. By the end, she has her brother's back, and I do love that moment where Edward Rooney he has him, and you actually see fear on Ferris's face.
Oh, yeah, for the only
much like Cameron had after everything happened.
It's the only time you see him sweat.
It's the only time
only
you
time.
see him sweat. And it's because of that sweat that he goes upstairs and his parents still think he's
Yeah.
sick and stuff like
There
that. Legit sweat.
Yeah.
Fear sweat. The one that makes your balls stink in such a weird way.
Why do you always have to go to the balls, Dave?
Fear sweat makes your balls smell so much weirder than running sweat does. It's a very distinct sweat. Fear sweat.
I'm happy I've never seen your balls. I don't.
What?
I'm.
You haven't?
Well, much like my back, they're hairy.
Imagine Dave's back and then
Swampy, sticky, furry
yeah.
mess.
Yeah, they
More
just leave.
wrinkles.
When I wear basketball shorts, it usually soaks through. So when I sit down everywhere, I'm leaving little heart shaped ball kisses everywhere.
Ball kisses.
This is for the Patreons. This is what.
This is not.
Little Hershey kisses on the.
This is not. No, this is the real fucking McCoy. This shit's happening.
This is just normal super movie bros conversation. Yeah.
The sequel.
Well, also we're done our drinks, so that's why.
The third sequel to Jumanji will actually take place in the space between my asshole and my ball sack, right?
Swamp ass
the
city.
swamp ass city. It's Honey I Shrunk the Kids 4. Stuck in Dad's ass jungle. Only, in the first one they befriended an ant. God knows what they're going to find down there. It could be crabs. I don't know if they're Alaskan king, but they feel huge.
Oh god. Jeez. Anyway, Edward Rooney.
Mr. Vizzini.
Yeah. So anyway,
so sorry.
You
But
make me make a phony phone call to Edward Rooney. Sorry.
the dude could annihilate me.
So many good lines. Anyway.
There is so many good lines in this movie. We didn't spend the whole time quoting them, which I'm happy about, because it's infinitely quotable.
Not like the
movie.
South Park movie where
Not
me and
like-
Dave
oh
went
my
off.
god, where we sang pretty much the entire
yeah.
Oh,
soundtrack.
that was horrible.
But so everything ends up okay for Ferris. He gets home in time, and
Right. His sister
Oh,
opens
right.
up the door,
Oh,
and,
right,
and,
right.
and then she tells him, "Thank God, can you believe Ferris tried to walk home from the hospital on his own? Thanks for bringing him home."
saved by his sister.
By the way, Mr. Rooney, you left your wallet on my kitchen floor, meaning meaning he can't
Yeah.
say that he was there. He
Yeah.
doesn't have Ferris
so
now.
really, he has his sister to thank.
Right. Yeah, he does. Not to mention she roundhouse kicked Edward
Yeah.
Rooney in the
3
face,
times.
which is fucking great. But she also has that transformative moment at the police station because
With
at
a
the
young,
at the hands of Tiger Blood himself,
Yeah,
Charlie Sheen.
He looked sexy there.
He does. He looks
leather
good. there.
jacket.
That
This
dark
is just before Platoon.
bad boy.
Same
May
year.
or may not actually be drugged up.
Same year as Platoon, right? Platoon came out in '96.
Yeah, I feel like he filmed Platoon before he shot this, but I think Platoon came out after this movie. I don't know. I don't know.
Which is one of his
I'm
big
just making
breakout
shit up.
roles. Oh.
But it was around
Other than
all
Lucas,
around the same time.
Other
Yeah.
than the movie Lucas, where he plays the football star,
It was bam, 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 hit. I mean, then Charlie Sheen was
he had
everywhere.
some moments, right?
This was definitely early on for him, though.
Yeah. But I mean, I do love that scene and stuff like that. One of the things like I realized when I was
He does a good spoof on that scene as well later on in life, a few years ago.
yes, he did. When I was watching Ferris's sister drive home with Ferris's mom and stuff like that, and they're arguing and stuff like that, I looked at my wife and I was like, if we have a daughter, that's going to be you teaching her how to drive. Like just
So it was the same year as Platoon.
yeah, I think 86 is when Platoon came out.
Right.
So, but
That's
anyway,
a good fucking movie too. Anyway,
so I think we've talked about Ferris Bueller enough.
yeah.
at least
if you haven't
the
seen
main
it,
stuff.
well, why are you listening to this?
Why are you
But also,
listening to this?
go watch it.
Go watch it. It's on Netflix. Just watch it anytime. Like
Fucking
yeah.
great.
I've watched it twice. Since last week and this week. I've now watched it
make you-
twice, and
and-
you
and
don't
I-
get bored with it.
It'll make you
No,
wanna
absolutely.
call in
I
sick.
promise you're only going to get more and more out of it the more you watch it.
Yeah, I don't think this is one we have to beg people to watch.
You might
This is not a movie that's ever going to age.
You might get inspired to call out of work the next day.
It's true.
You're going to
that
get
way.
inspired to call out. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. You're right.
but do something
To live a
with your
little.
life.
But do something. Yeah, don't just watch
Yeah.
the movie.
Stand up to
or
your
jerk
father.
But wait a minute. We're responsible adults now. Just look at your calendar, find out what's a good day for you to request off.
Yeah.
Get that vacation
Plan
day
that
and
time
do something.
off.
And do
Yeah.
something with it.
Yeah, plan a trip to Chicago.
Or just fake work and save the vacation day.
Yeah, I do that all the time though. But like
Yeah.
I plan a day off.
Or
like
sleeping.
It's my wife's birthday coming up, and I was like, oh, I'm going to take a day off and stuff like that. I'm going to take these 2 days off. We're going to do something for my wife's birthday and stuff like that. I take the days off, and I was like, but I can't surprise her because she works too, so I want her to take the days off. And then she's like, no, those days are booked for me, so you're on your own. And I was like, gonna play video games.
Or were you like, oh yeah?
Oh yeah, bum bum dum 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 dum.
Are you going to try and beat that record of 8 that day, too?
33 years old. You're never beating that record again, buddy.
That was in his prime there.
That was a 14-year-old man. That was a 14-year-old boy's gambit. You
That
can't
is
do that now.
hard to do. I think I can maybe get... Man, I don't
Jay,
know.
back then I could arc ropes that could hit the ceiling. Now I can't arc a rope that could.
Now he
I
has
was
too much
never a
ball
shooter.
sweat.
I was
Yeah.
never a shooter.
Yeah.
It can't even
shoot like
It's
that.
too
can't even-
slippery down there.
Yeah, it can't even get away from the tip anymore. It just goes. And it
Stop talking about
It
Dave's
could go.
dick.
It could go. It could go
Thick
so far
with an arch.
It could go so far.
Can we just stop
And now it just goes.
talking about Dave's dick and balls?
Makes me mad.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're such a wonderful crowd. We'd like to play a little tune for you. It's one of my personal favorites. And I'd like to dedicate it to a young man who doesn't think he's seen anything good today. Cameron Fry, this one's for you.
What are you doing?
Thank you for all the joy and
You're out of your mind.
picture show.
This episode of Super Movie Brothers is brought to you by Blowfish, the only over-the-counter FDA-approved hangover cure. We've been using Blowfish for years, and it works great after a long night of drinking. You work hard during the week and deserve to blow off some steam on the weekends, but you don't have to suffer the Sunday morning hangover blues if you use Blowfish. So head over to forhangovers.com, that's F-O-R hangovers.com, and use the promo code SMBFISH at checkout to get your discount on the miracle hangover cure. And if you like this movie cocktail and other movie cocktails that we've made, make sure to head over to forhangovers.com because you're going to need yourself some Blowfish with how strong we make these drinks. Now, back to the show.
Future.
Ferris can do anything. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
College.
Yeah, but to do what?
What are you interested in?
Nothing.
Me neither.
You're crazy!
So we've talked about Ferris Bueller's Day Off. We got into the lasting effects of the film and how it affects us now as adults, having seen it as kids, and its lasting effects on film. And I think Ben Stein actually summed it up best because he was quoted after the movie came out as saying that Ferris Bueller's Day Off is the most life-affirming movie possibly of the entire post-war period, meaning post-World War II. This is to comedies what Gone with the Wind is to epics. That's like...
I actually agree with that.
Fucking true. It's fucking true.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really
There's
think
something about it.
if you kind of really think about it, Ferris Bueller is almost like our entry into Gen Xers and millennials and all this stuff. Like, he's the first post-war baby. You know, his parents are the boomers who gave birth to him and stuff like that. But he is the first slacker, really. You know what I mean? Like that first person portrayed on film to reach this height, I would say. To reach this height.
And clarity, to have like well-rounded of a character that was explored in the whole feature
and also
film.
to be the main character, right? Like the character like Ferris was always the side character in other movies. Like, you think of Spicoli in Fast Times at Ridgemont High and stuff like that. You know, these type of larger than life characters, they couldn't be contained, you know, in an entire film, so they had to be given small moments and stuff like that. But this really like opened the box up for your character to be this type of person, for a film to really revolve around this type of enigmatic person who can, you know, not just live as the character on screen, but also embody so much more than what they're showing, right? For you as an audience member to live out a fantasy through them,
right?
And the fact that it takes place in one day, I think, has something to do with that, because
it really does.
It's just almost like a stream of consciousness, like, you know, events that just keep happening. There's no flashbacks or anything. You know, just like one continuous.
I mean, you can almost lump this into like a suspense thriller of some sorts, right? Because you're on the edge of your seat. You don't know what's going to happen next.
Anything.
You're always excited. You're right there in a car with them, going on this trip, skipping school with them. You know, you're on that kind of vibe. You're on that kind of feel with them.
Very much so.
And it's exciting.
So some of the behind the scenes stuff. A lot of stuff was ad-libbed in this film. We know that the clarinet scene where he's like, I only had 3 lessons. Completely
that
ad-libbed.
was just a prop that he picked up and was like, hey.
Just fucking around with. The construction worker dancers at the beginning of the parade who start dancing.
Where people just showed up.
That was ad-libbed. And
the shower, too, when he's taking the shower in the beginning and singing Donkey Shane. That was
Edward Rooney.
His little mohawk.
Edward Rooney had a line about the smell of cheese in the wind, which was ad-libbed. He just wanted him to
line.
He just wanted to have something that was completely random. And a lot of the phone call between Edward Rooney, Cameron, and Ferris was ad-libbed as well. And Grace had to the actress who played Grace. The actress who played Grace had to actually go through what the lines were supposed to be, so Edward Rooney could react to it. But the recording on the other side was actually a lot of ad-lib and stuff like that. So.
And that scene is great. We were talking about.
There's a lot of this.
There's so many good scenes in it.
There's a lot of this in John Hughes films where like the script isn't Bible to him. You know, it's a very living document where he allows his actors to kind of embody the character. And then like what, you know, when they say, I don't think my character would do this in this scene, I think they would have a line like this. And if it works for him, it works.
It seemed like if it works, it works. Exactly.
Yeah. You know, he'll put it in. Or I believe, you know, watching some stuff on behind the scenes of like Breakfast Club and stuff like that, he would let them do it and then have them say what he would say and stuff like, you know, he worked
I think he
with
trusted his actors a lot too.
But again, I think this is also like an early thing. This never used to happen in Hollywood back then.
But also to go along with it,
and breathed by the script.
When you allow ad-libbing and stuff like that, that means you're doing multiple takes. and sometimes your movie,
it's expensive.
Your movie can go over budget,
Sure.
over time and filming and stuff like that, because we know that there were scenes cut from this movie where, Mark, you were saying that they were supposed to go to a strip club at one point.
Right. There was a scene in the script where they went to a strip club. But I guess they were kind of running behind, so that scene had to go, unfortunately.
And then, on top of that, there's also the fact that this script, or at least the story, I would say, when I say the script was written in 6 days, I think what they're really saying is the outline and the story arc was written in 6 days, and maybe a lot of the dialogue, but really this film came together when it was being filmed.
Well, John Hughes said he knew the beginning and the end, and he kind of just filled in the rest because he knew that it was good, it was going to be off the wall, it was going to be crazy. So,
which goes to what I was saying earlier.
Yeah, it does go back to that. Yep.
Where it was clear that chase scene was something that they wanted to have put into film from the get go.
And to reiterate, this is a fantasy. It's heightened reality.
It is.
I mean, 3 characters are committing crimes throughout this movie.
It's true. It's true.
Ferris,
minor crimes,
Cameron,
cheeky crimes.
The
lovable
principal,
scamp crimes.
Well, of course, but still.
Well, in real life, Jeffrey Jones committed some truly heinous real life crimes. So
sure.
I'm sorry. There's a special place in hell for pederasts. Grace.
I'm trying to take us from the darkness.
Oh my God, Ed, you sound like Dirty Harry just then. How do we come back from all this? So the script written in 6 days, and
how about that Ferrari?
Good looking car.
Oh, good looking car. You spent a lot of money getting that car for the film. Most of the budget, actually.
But it wasn't a real Ferrari.
It was not a real Ferrari. It was they did a Mach 1 over
it's a prototype fiberglass that all up, jazz it up, and it's.
I imagine they did a good job because I couldn't tell, but I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
Cars,
there's nothing underneath that hood.
Yeah, makes sense.
So one of the other things about the film, and this has come out in like more recent years and stuff like that, as our generation has grown up and we started putting out media like this, like podcasts and YouTube and stuff like that. The theory that Ferris Bueller's Day Off, we talked about the entire time that it's a fantasy and stuff like that, but that the events of the film actually never happen. That Ferris actually doesn't exist, and that Cameron is the one who is imagining all of this going on, and Ferris isn't real. He's his imaginary friend.
Cameron was the main character all along.
Not only that, I mean, Cameron was the narrator, and Ferris, as I said to Jay earlier, is the Tyler Durden character.
Yeah,
living out the fantasy that Cameron wishes he could live in his own life. And
that's the thing. You can look at this movie a lot of different.
I mean, that's good symbolism, right? But I don't
think that's the way.
I don't think it's true. Not at all. Not at all.
I think it's fun to think like that.
It's fun to think like that, but I think in reality, the fantasy is that this is John Hughes writing a story about the fantastical nature of your teenagers.
Do you think it's a day that John Hughes wishes he had?
100%.
Yeah,
100%. Where
it's like if I had one day to go off in Chicago and do whatever I wanted. I
think a lot of John Hughes films really come down to the fact that I don't think he lived the idyllic teenage life. And there's actually a great documentary about John Hughes called Finding John Hughes,
saw that one.
which is, I say great. What I mean is it's pretty good.
I didn't like that they actually tried to find him.
Yeah, I didn't actually like that. I prefer
leave him alone.
I prefer to
just explore him.
He was and now he's dead. But
at the time,
I mean, but John Hughes did. He disappeared from Hollywood after the early 90s. I think he wrote some script and
Curly
stuff
Sue?
like that. Yeah, he wrote some stuff, but he really just kind of like shrunk into himself and just disappeared.
Did he write Baby's Day Out? I feel like
he did write Baby's Day Out.
That might have been the last one.
I think it was.
He did not go out on top.
It is an interesting look into John Hughes films and stuff like that. But
also he made so, like we talked about, he made so many great movies that maybe he just had his time and that was it.
Yeah,
and you gotta respect that, I think, in some way. But
and I mean but I do think that like all of his films are the idyllic adult looking back on their teenage years,
and
right?
He did do some commentaries and stuff too. Like he was still around.
Yeah.
Talking about his movies a little bit. It wasn't like he was a complete recluse or anything.
But I mean, like, Breakfast Club. I mean, we talk about the archetypes in the Breakfast Club and stuff like that. And I think like every single one of them represented a different aspect of John Hughes himself in a way, like each archetype is playing off of a different aspect of every person in high school, right? We're all a little bit of the jock. We're all a little bit of the rebel. We're all a little bit of the grunge girl. We're all a little bit of the princess or the smart guy. You know, all of I would, you know, I can't look at the Breakfast Club and say like I'm John Bender. Like that's who I am. That's who I was in high school. I think
I can't. I can't say I'm one character.
No, I think when you watch the Breakfast Club, you look at that and then you look at any teenager and say that is the amalgam of the teenage personality. All of those characters exist in one person, and that's the point of the film. It's almost like the film takes place in one location because it's you arguing with yourself. And that's the point of that movie. And that's him looking back at the teenage psyche, where Ferris Bueller's looking back at the teenage fantasy, at the fantasy that he could have lived as a teenager, but he's an adult now, and he's looking back at the days he could have had, and the things you could have done.
I do know that art, the art museum scene was, you know, John Hughes has called that his very self-indulgent moment because that's something that he used to go to that exact museum, and,
right.
You know, and I think it's a really great sequence that you actually, in the midst of all this craziness, you take a moment to kind of just like look at art and just enjoy it.
And then I think if you look at things like Pretty in Pink, that is the realistic nature of love in high school. You know, the girl should fall in love with Ducky in that movie, and John Hughes very much is Ducky, but she doesn't. She falls in love with the hunk, right? Like, and that's how it works. You know, that's just how
real life.
That's just real life. That's just how it ends up. You know,
and I mean, John Hughes. You know, I feel like we couldn't say enough about him, but really, you know, something that we were talking about before is that he did not talk down to kids, and I think that's something they talk about in that documentary. Is, you know, he made movies for teens and for younger people, but he didn't talk down to them, and he made you know, he brought them to the same level as anyone else.
They felt like it was made for them, and I think I think the word "fuck" is said in the Breakfast Club, and
it's
you know,
there's in Ferris Bueller.
It's said in Ferris Bueller. I mean, and even though the rating systems were different then, it you know, it didn't shy away from talking the way kids actually talked, and away from showing the way that kids actually feel.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
this is how they feel.
Cursing aside, I mean, there's subject matter in there that, you know, you wouldn't see in many,
I really
quote,
do
unquote,
believe that he was. I think there's, because of his light and dark and his exploration with teenagers, I think he had a lot of trauma when he was a teenager himself. But deep down was a lighthearted person. He had an idealistic
there is
vision,
a darkness to him.
I think he went through some shit, and I think it stuck with him. And I think he's also a creative type, and he was able to explore those avenues.
Yeah,
and I would venture a guess, without knowing this for sure, but I would venture a guess that he dabbled with the idea of suicide at some point, because suicide shows up a lot in his films, and it's something that kids deal with a lot today. Because
it also explains his later in life somberness of just fading into the dark. You know, I mean, who knows? I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, maybe he just lived an idyllic life, you know, like in Montana, just hurdling some cattle and fucking skiing all the time. I don't know. Who knows? But like, you know, you don't know. You just don't know.
So final things here. Molly Ringwald was originally auditioned to play Sloane's role, Mia Sara, and John Hughes actually talked her out of it. Said that the role was too small for her. She had already starred in 2 of his films at this point, was well on her way to becoming a bona fide movie star at her age, and taking the role of Sloane was kind of beneath her. He also just really liked the way Mia Sara looked. She was the right age. And
it's kind of funny that
doe-eyed and
the opposite of that, Bill Paxton turned down a small role because
to play the garage attendant.
He thought it was too small, and then you know, he got upset and never casted him again.
Also, Matthew Broderick at this time, 23 years old. Mia Sara, who plays Sloane, she was 18 years old, playing a 17-year-old. And Cameron...
Alan Ruck.
Alan Ruck.
29
years old.
Can you believe it?
Kind of blows my mind.
It does.
Because when you watch it,
but this is like we were talking about Karate Kid, where he was like, how old are you? And he's like, I think he was like 22 at the time, and everyone's like, shut up.
But you know what's like? It's kind of like Michael Cena, Justin Long, like those kind of guys. They were playing young characters late into their 20s.
Into their
20s.
Right. Now that Justin Long is in his 40s, you know, he's finally playing 20-year-olds. 20-somethings.
Some people have good genes, man.
Some people got it, man. It's just always those small squirrely people, you know?
Babyface stuff. But
absolutely.
But the Matthew Broderick character, I mean, I know he wanted him to play the character,
Yeah,
but
that was
there was a
essential
lot
for the
of
character.
every star was going for this movie.
Yeah.
Every hot young guy from Johnny Depp to Charlie Sheen, probably even. But
he-
like
he
it
had
was one of
Matthew
those
Broderick
things.
in mind, I
But
think, when he
Broderick
wrote-
was always the
yeah.
main guy. I don't know exactly what took so long for him to nail him down, but it could have been some studio pushback. Who knows? But
War Games, baby.
Yeah.
There
War
honestly, can
Games.
you imagine anybody else? Hell no.
Like we were saying,
Hell no.
you had to. The main character had to be likable for this to work.
Oh.
And
I mean, this is one of those.
Instantly-
This is one of
instantly
those things
likable.
where, like, when we talk about movies, we talk about like the happy accidents that wound up making the movie great. The all the little things that wind up coming together to make it the classic that it is. And if the stars didn't align for it, it doesn't happen. There's plenty of great movies that have been made throughout history,
Of course.
and not all of them get remembered, but everything aligned for this one
Yeah.
for it to be a bona fide hit long into its past its 30-year mark now.
everything came together.
Yeah,
for sure.
2016 was its 30-year mark, and we are approaching 2020. It's going to be getting in 2021. It'll be 25 years old. It'll be 35 years old at that point. It's crazy.
It
to
hasn't
think of
aged
that.
a day though,
but it
It's
hasn't
one of those
aged
timeless.
a day.
Yeah, one of those timeless.
Short of
movies.
not seeing a cell phone in the movie.
Well,
that's the only thing that aged.
Yeah.
And we talk about remakes and stuff like that, reboots, and there's certain things you don't touch, and I don't think that this can
I
ever.
hope they don't touch it.
I don't think they can ever touch it. I don't think I do think you could go back and you could do a modern age Breakfast Club, but I don't think you can go back and do a modern age Ferris Bueller.
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't think you can capture the world as it was at the
closest
time.
we'll get is Deadpool.
That's the closest
the
we'll
ending
get.
of Deadpool.
What are you doing? The movie's over.
You still here?
Go home. So that's going to do it for our discussion on Ferris Bueller's Day Off. We do have another category. This one came from our Patreon listeners as well, and I love this category. I love the idea of it. It is movie mad scientists. So your movie has to have a mad scientist in it. We're gonna be pretty loose with the term mad. They don't.
I'm going literal with mine.
They don't have to be. They don't have to be. Crazy is definitely part of it. Eccentric for sure. And they don't have to be the star of the film, but it does have to revolve around their mad science and that's really where it comes from. So, Mark, by default, you got to go first last time because we dropped Rob's movie from it. So your movie was in the first poll spot. You won, so you're not first this time.
Well, I will not be winning this time.
Yeah. I get to go first this time because we're going back to the order. And of course, mad scientist, I'm going to take Dr. Emmett Brown for, he is mad. He is the dude that stole plutonium from the Iranian terrorists, used it to fuel his flux capacitor, and then tested it on his dog. He tested it on his dog
Einstein,
first.
yeah.
I would have tried it on a rat, but you tried it on your dog, you sick fuck.
Are you gonna start making YouTube videos next? Jesus.
Sends him back in time, befriends a 17-year-old boy, and no one questions it whatsoever. Obviously, I'm putting Back to the Future up for the
Which
poll
one, though?
because
The first one?
the first one.
Oh, okay.
100%.
All right.
100%. It's a perfect.
Nobody can complain. about
No,
it.
I'm just just wondering.
Dr. Emmett Brown is a mad
I knew it wasn't
scientist.
going to be the third one, so
And the fun thing about like Dr. Emmett Brown is the entire idea of his character was to create the eccentric mad scientist, and like even down to his look, like just the crazy hair. And then of course we get the Rick and Morty homage these days and stuff like that, which is a fun, brilliant way to play on that trope and have a lot of dark, sick humor fun with it.
Absolutely.
It speaks to me.
So I'm going a little outside the box, Dave, with my pick, and I'm actually
shit.
going to
With all your picks forever and ever.
I have to stay true to myself. I'm going with Tom Wilkinson's character. He's played Dr. I don't even know how to pronounce this. Mirzawak.
Spider-Man 2 would technically
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Yes. So Michael Gondry's classic film, one of my favorites. I mentioned it loosely earlier on in the episode. Right.
I love this. It's a dark horse pick, buddy. I like it.
It is a dark horse pick.
It's not going to win shit.
A lot of people love it.
I mean, Dan from
It's
Netflix.
no Back to the Future.
Dan from
but
Netflix and Swill was 100%.
It's 100% one of my favorite movies of all time.
I know that.
Along with Back to the Future. But, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I have to.
All right.
And just to explain a little bit. So obviously he is the mad scientist because he erases people's memories.
Right. He comes up with the idea of how to erase the memories and stuff like that.
Yeah, he is the scientist and the doctor that's able to very singularly, precisely delete certain memories from someone's brain, and he does it with many people throughout the film, and it's pretty wild.
Right.
Pretty wild.
All right, Mark, we come down to you in our text, in our group text. I knew what Jay was picking. You knew what I was picking. We have no clue what you're picking.
I know. I'm excited.
I like this. What do you got?
Is this down to the wire? You're biting your lip. Oh my God, look at this.
Wait, I thought you guys knew.
No, we didn't know. You didn't. You never texted us. You
No, I
never
did.
told us. Oh, did you?
I did.
What is it?
Look, you guys had like 150 texts
I
today.
definitely
All right,
texted you
so
guys. No,
I got lost
I
in the
thought I
shuffle.
might change it by now, but I'm going with my. When you first asked me, the first movie I thought of was Reanimator, so that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, it's 100. Jay's never seen Reanimator.
No.
So I mean, I know. I kind of sent you.
Man, I thought mine was a dark horse.
I called it. Reanimator is not a dark horse. When you think of mad science, Reanimator is mad science. It's a fantastic film. There is a disembodied head who eats out a girl at one point. I mean, there's
3 of them actually,
Yeah.
but the first one I guess is what I would be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm saying like not
The
many people
best
have seen
part
this
is
movie.
insane.
Reanimator is on Jay's movie homework list.
Is it?
I just haven't
Okay.
gotten to making him watch it.
Well, there you go.
But
Two
the
birds
oth-
with one stone.
The other film I wanted you to possibly put up was, Jeff Goldblum's character in The Fly. I
The
absolutely
Fly,
love
yeah.
that movie.
Well, I love
Jay,
The Fly.
That was
Jay
my
has-
number 2, and that was
Jay
I
has
was-
seen that
I was-
movie.
That
I
would
was
probably
close
be
to
number 2 for me. Yeah.
But
I was
I
close
like
to putting
this
that on,
because
yeah.
Jay has never seen Reanimator. So if it wins, we get to make Jay watch Reanimator.
All right. Everyone vote for Reanimator.
Yeah, I mean, so Reanimator and Dead Alive are like the two, or Brain Dead.
Dead Alive.
Are two that Jay has not seen yet, and I would
They're actually
love.
very similar because they're both outrageously gory and crazy. So.
And zombies.
And zombies and flesh things.
I feel like Reanimator is black and white somehow.
It is not.
No, it's not.
It is not.
Okay.
It is not. A lot of green.
You're thinking
ooze.
of Frankenstein.
You're thinking, yeah, a lot of green is. Young Frankenstein was another one
Young
that I thought of
Frankenstein.
for this category.
Oh, that would be a good one too.
Yeah, I thought.
There's a lot of good
never
ones.
saw that either.
Reanimator was just the first one that popped in my head.
It's definitely a category I think like maybe could squeak into season 3 at some point, but we haven't discussed what the topics will be for season 3
Look,
yet.
there's so many topics we can dive into in different kind of ways and aspects and all that. But
Mark, why Reanimator, man? Like what makes this a classic? What makes it?
what makes him a mad scientist? in
Really,
this movie?
I mean, when I think of a mad scientist in movies, this is who I think of, and I haven't seen it in a long time, and I really want to rewatch it. So
It's been years since I've
Yeah,
seen
it's
it,
been a
but I
really long
remember
time, so.
I remember watching it. This is one of those blockbuster movies,
Yeah,
young
it was around
adult
that time.
that I watched, and I was just like, "What
yeah,
fucking madness!"
it's
And
one of those movies that just gets crazier as it goes. Like,
it definitely walks
it
the line
builds,
of
like-
madness and brilliance.
Yeah.
Like it's very much like Eraserhead
It's
in
kinda
that
like,
way. It's very
Evil Dead
much
2,
like
which
Evil
I
Dead
don't
2,
think you agree
very
about,
much
but-
like Dead Alive. Like
Yeah, Dead Alive, yeah.
they walk these like these movies all walk these lines of depravity and genius at the same
it's
time.
like so over the top that you're just like, all right, this is great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but not for everyone. So we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. So those are our movies that we're going to put up for vote over on Twitter. So keep an eye on our Twitter page. You can follow us on Twitter at SuperMoviePod. That's where we put up all the movie cocktail polls, and you can follow us over there. So and be part of the show. You can also respond to this episode or any of our picks for our next movie cocktail.
You can reach us out to Facebook or Instagram. Facebook on Super Movie Bros Podcast and Instagram Super Movie Bros.
Mark, where can everyone find you and your fantastic podcast, Cult Movie Cult? You got a new episode just dropped at the time of this
Oh,
recording.
I can't wait to listen.
Just today, American Psycho. We just finished up our series about one-hit wonders in cult cinema. Flash in the can. So yeah, we just did American Psycho, and it came out today. So check it out.
I really can't push enough for you guys to watch Cult Movie Cult. It's kind of like the show I wish I was doing if I had someone else as my co-host other than Jay. Because like Cult Movie,
You've been on our show.
I have been, yeah. But Cult Movie Cult talks about all the films I want to dive into, and I hope we get to a lot of them here
Well,
on
Dave,
like
I
Movie
try to
Cocktail.
sneak some in for you.
Yeah, I can't tell you how much like cult cinema has created me into the movie fan that I am, because like I've always liked movies while growing up, but I feel like it's cult cinema that speaks to me in this way where it's like, fuck, I love this. Like I love how weird and dark it gets, and it touches you in a very weird, dark place. You feel dirty watching some of these cult movies, but you also feel
It touches you.
right. You also feel like Cameron at the end of Ferris Bueller, but you're changed because of it.
So it's cool to hear about new things.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, Reanimator is definitely on that list for sure. It's definitely a cult movie.
Definitely a cult movie for sure. For sure.
So we'll see.
Night of the Creeps, man. You got to get to
Oh, that's a good one.
You got got to get to Night of the Creeps at some point.
There's so many. Dude, talk
Fucking love
about
it.
movies we got to get to. Yeah, so many.
Night of the Creeps, so good. Anyway, that's going to do it for Super Movie Brothers tonight. I want to thank all of you guys for listening. Please, please, please check us out on the social medias, the Instagram and our Twitter, so that you can check out the cocktail for this week. You know, we slaved our butts off to make this one, and
Home run.
Yeah, and it was a fantastic cocktail. That doesn't happen
It's going in the book
every time. It happens a lot. We do make good cocktails every time. This is one of those great ones. This is one of the ones that I would say. This is one of those ones that I would say goes down in the pantheon of movie cocktails
Fits
for
the
everyone to
movie,
try.
and
So
it's good.
so have a great one, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.